Alright, and welcome to this presentation on Chapter 9. We're going to start talking a little bit about the chapter. Alright, the major ideas we're going to focus on today are the disputes with Great Britain and the Rush-Bagot Agreement, as well as we're going to talk about the beginning of the presidency of James Monroe, and then we'll get into our disputes with Florida and how those would be settled with the Adams-Onis Treaty, and then last but not least the Monroe Doctrine, which we'll be covering in the computer lab on Friday. We'll do an activity with the Monroe Doctrine. Alright, the Rush-Bagot Agreement limited naval power on the Great Lakes for both the U.S. and Great Britain. This region here, if you'll remember, during the War of 1812, this was a highly contested region, including the major battle of Lake Erie, the Battle of Fort Detroit, and the Battle of Thames here. So Monroe's elected president, and his first order of business is to start settling some of these border disputes. America's expanding into former territories of European countries, or in some cases current territories of European countries, including Spain. So this region here, Florida, is going to become an issue, but eventually will end up becoming a part of the United States. And we basically give up most of our claims to this idea of Western expansion into this region. The Lewis and Clark area is now renamed the Missouri Territory, but the area that they mapped out and explored is right there as well. So Monroe decides that he's had enough, and enough is enough in terms of dealing with European nations, and he creates what he would call the Monroe, or which would later be called the Monroe Doctrine. And there's four simple parts to it. The first one, the United States would not interfere in the affairs of European nations. We won't mess with your business. The U.S. would recognize and not interfere with colonies that these European nations had already settled and colonized, both in North and South America. The Western Hemisphere was to be off limits to future colonization by any foreign power. And last but not least, the United States government would consider any European power's attempt to colonize or interfere with nations in the Western Hemisphere to be a hostile act. At the end of it all, the whole concept is, we have the area we have, you have the area you have, you keep and maintain your area, we're going to keep and maintain our area, we're going to leave you alone, you leave us alone. Tomorrow we'll meet in the computer lab to discuss the repercussions of all this and how the Monroe Doctrine was applied, and we'll talk a little bit about and have a little debate on how the Monroe Doctrine is seen and used today. With that, I'd encourage you to go on and also watch the quick how to sign up for Google Drive video, because we'll be using Google Drive and Google Documents in class tomorrow. Hope you have a great evening.